Some views of 5G IA, 5G PPP with verticals, and I think that will somewhat is a follow-up of a complement of what was presented by my colleague Didier Bourse on trials roadmap. So what are our objectives in the field of verticals? At first, enhance vertical sector engagement in 5G PPP. Indeed, and it was said earlier in the conference, we will not succeed in 5G if we fail with verticals. It's absolutely essential. So we have to gather verticals feedback on 5G needs and also identify some potential barriers for adoption. And I think it's important to incentive verticals involvement because these are two worlds. The worlds of industry, of verticals, and the worlds of digital communications, telcos, are not the same. And even if they speak together in nice conferences, that does not mean that they will work effectively together. So it's important to make, as soon as possible, work, trial together, and particularly in the standardization process with 3GPP, which is of key importance. This slide that I had already used, but tries to summarize a bit the requirements of main verticals such as security, with Leonardo, for instance, and public safety, disaster relief, also the automotive industry with Volkswagen and PSA. Volkswagen expressing that, for instance, the dynamic network slicing and predicted quality of service would be essential for autonomous vehicles and for automated driving. For PSA, autonomous car will request an hybrid architecture, sensors, femtocells, for a perfect virtual knowledge of the road towards the road, the connected road of the 5th generation. And for industry, smart factories, as a Bosch quotation, high reliability and ultra-low latency are essential for applications such as mobile robots, factory automation, control, monitoring and augmented reality and logistics. To mention that at the 5GIA we have been proactive to implement this strategy towards this action towards verticals. We have identified some priority vertical sectors. All sectors are important. We saw here many examples of agribusiness, agriculture, of course, that are important. For the moment, we, let's say, target what we had initially pointed out, defined in our white paper, 5G PPP white paper, 5G empowering vertical industries. That remains a reference, and we have implemented a tracker to trigger all vertical related activities in 5G PPP. So this represents our phase 2 5G PPP projects, where verticals are partners of the consortia and involved in these trials, in these projects, experimentations. I will not detail, but it's important to quote some of them. For instance, for connected and automated mobility, you have the 5G car for end-to-end V2X network connectivity. You have the 5G city, showed also in Barcelona this year, for distributed cloud and radio platform for municipalities. And infrastructure owners acting as 5G neutral hosts. You have, for instance, the 5G XCast in the field of consumer with large-scale immersive media delivery. We can quote the 5G media for tele-immersive applications in broadcasting. We can quote the 5G monarch. It was mentioned the Hamburg port authorities. So it's a flexible architecture for 5G brought in 2 test beds, the Hamburg Port Authority and the Turin Palazzo Madama. We can quote the NRG5 for smart energy as a service, the 5G Tango smart manufacturing, the 5G picture for 5G rail services in a real railway testbed with Barcelona and Bristol. 5G Essence with Thales on the cloud-integrated multi-tenant small cell network. And just to finish this quotation, Matilda with a 5G-enabled emergency response for real-time intervention in a critical infrastructure protection. So this is a recap. This is a recap of those use cases in 8 clusters, classified in 8 clusters. And our tracker, our cartography, verticals cartography tool, recaps that. It was indicated by Didier that 63 cities in 63 trials in 38 cities in 13 countries in Europe had been reported now via this tool. Let's say that for the moment it's mainly let's say EMBB type applications and also more targeted towards municipalities, SMEs, and large enterprise. So this is quite important for tracking. To finish, to mention the via our pre-standardization work group, our action to embark or to contribute to embark the verticals in the standardization process as soon as release 16 and not later. As soon as release 16, I know that as was presented yesterday, most of the definitions of release 16 are already set, but if we involve the verticals as soon as possible, still some requests could be taken into account for fine-tuning the 3GPP features. And our standardization tracker will also measure the inputs, the monitor the impacts, and be a sort of complement to verticals, online verticals cartography. We envisage next in the first quarter of next year a 5G vertical workshop with some verticals and 3GPP. That could be an excellent opportunity to involve the verticals in the standardization process. This is a recap of all the inputs that our 5G PPP projects have done into 3GPP standardization. Phase 1, more than 200 contributions. Phase 2, already more than 42 contributions, and it's ongoing. So it's a strong basis for future work between 3GPP and 5G PPP. And yes, just to finish, this chart indicates the vertical perspective and cooperation. We have realized that it was very difficult to us as an association to lead actions with each separated company, and we are more targeting, like us, the industry vertical associations, with whom we can, on the same basis, conduct some cooperation activities, such as 5G AA, with which we signed an agreement. Also in the field of security, PSC Europe and EXO. In the field of industry, we are in very good discussions with 5G Asia and other ones, as you can see. And the workshop we envisage with verticals will embark 5G AA, 5G Asia, PSCE, and ETSI 3GPP. So thank you very much. This was my overview.